So you are going to precept a psych mental health nurse practitioner student. Great! Providing quality education to these future mental health providers is vital. But precepting a PMHNP student is very different than precepting a family practice student. So before you even agree to precept, here are some things that you might want to consider. First, you want to ask your patient's permission to allowing students in the session. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach this, but I always recommend that you start with doing it in a positive manner. For example, as you know, there's a shortage of healthcare providers, and I've been asked to help educate some psych mental health nurse practitioner students. Would it be okay if the students participate in our sessions? I think they could really learn a lot from how you and I work together, or they could learn a lot from you. When precepting virtually, I had one preceptor tell me that she had a notification on the platform that reminded patients that students might be present on the visit and to let her know if that was not okay. So next you want to decide how you're going to precept, in person, virtually, or virtually from the office. With an in-person approach, the student will come into the office. Make sure that you have a place for the student to sit and work between patients. The pros are that the face-to-face experience really is ideal for students. It's the best way for preceptors to assess student progress. And it's the best way to students can connect with patients. The cons are it can feel a little bit invasive to some patients, depending on the patient and the situation. Additionally, it can be less convenient. Also, preceptors can generally only precept one student at a time. The next approach is virtually via a HIPAA-compliant platform. This approach has been one of the good things that came out of the pandemic. With this approach, the student can log in from home. Students must hold a license where the preceptor is licensed. Pros are that it allows more flexibility for the student, the provider, and the patient. And it can also feel less invasive to the patient than having multiple people in the room. It's also much safer than in person for obvious reasons. Another advantage is that preceptors can often precept more than one student at a time. This has been a real game changer for our profession. And if schools allow it, and if we can learn how to do it effectively, this approach can work great. It's been very popular with all parties because of the flexibility it offers. And it allows providers to reach even rural high-need populations that may not have mental health services otherwise. The cons are that it can be hard to observe the patient-provider interactions for the student, and virtual visits can miss some of the essence of the visit that an in-person visit might reveal. On the other hand, it can give observers a peek into the patient's home and some of the dynamics that might otherwise be missed in an in-office visit. The last approach is virtually from the office. Essentially, this is the same as an in-person visit, but the student is in the provider's office and sees the patient virtually via a HIPAA-compliant platform. The next thing you want to assess is whether students will be able to see the patients and vice versa. Ideally, the answer to this is yes, but it really has to vary depending on the platform, what the site and preceptor allowances are, and preceptor and patient preferences, of course. Will students be able to participate in the visit? Again, ideally, yes. As the student progresses, he or she will be able to participate in the visit. Since psych patients generally have regular follow-up visits, it often works to have the student do follow-up visits once a relationship is established. But again, this really depends on what the site, the preceptor, and the patient allow. But learning how to interact with patients by actually interacting with patients truly is the best way to learn and grow. So if you can allow students to test their wings a bit, it's ideal. Thank you for precepting. We're happy to advise you or direct you or connect you if you ever need it. We have decades of experience when it comes to precepting NP students.